Good morning, good morning. What's up, Big Matt? Hey, a couple of things. Can we give a big round of applause to all of our volunteers today? Amen. Super thankful for them. And for our worship team, they did a great job. Gary and Andy and Patrick, you guys sounded great. Thank you for leading us into worship today. A couple of quick announcements I want to get into before we get into our In the Loop. One is this, is that you may have noticed that we've been locking the doors, that door and this door, and this is just for safety, right? It's just safety. So we've been locking the doors, but you guys keep coming. So, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It sounds horrible when you say you lock the doors, right? We're locking them after worship, and the big thing is this: I don't know if you follow world news, but there's been a lot of people that go into churches, and be honest with you, they don't want to worship the Lord. They're hurting and they're deceived, and they do bad things. So this is part of our way of keeping you safe and keeping your kids safe. So I just know that sometimes you can notice things and be like, oh, what's Daryl locking the door for? Why is Mike standing back there like he's going to sumo wrestle somebody? And it's just a precaution. There's been no threats. We've had none of that stuff, but it's just a precaution. How many know it's good to be safe? How many of you love your kids, right? Doesn't that just make you feel safe that maybe we're looking after for that, right? So anyway, so don't be like, I can't believe Element Church is keeping people out of the church. We're not. I've told Daryl 1,000 times, let them in if they're, so. The password for Daryl is pancake. So if you ever come in, he says, what's the password? Just say pancake, and he lets you in. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So anyway, that's just a heads up. That's just a precaution for us. It's just good to be safe. We live in a borrowed space here, and so it's just nice to be safe. Secondly, there's an Element student ministry sign up, a meal sign up over there. Where's Allie at? There she is. How many you need, sis? How many you need? 5? 5. Okay, so you say you're not until March. So, but wouldn't it be awesome if you had that ahead of time? That'd be really cool, right? So if you'd like to sign up to provide a meal for our Element students, that'd be great. What kind of meal? Just if you're on keto or if you're a vegan, maybe just pray. Maybe, or maybe just, that's great if you're there. We love you anyway. But get with somebody who's not and just go, what should I eat? What would you eat? But I'm nervous when you say, what would you eat? Because I've seen some of y'all eat stuff, and I'm like, I'd never touch that. How many of y'all like kombucha juice? Kombucha? Pray. Dude, that's bacteria living in that. Allie got me on one time, this was like a summer ago, and I looked at it, and there was all this, and I'd seen Mike drink it, and I'm like, well, this has got to be healthy. And I grabbed it, and I looked at it, I'm like, this got floaties. It's like somebody already drank this. And then I heard it was bacteria, and I'm like, well, I'm not smart, but like, that's a bad thing, right? And then y'all are like, no, there's good bacteria. And I'm like, right. Y'all trying to get a brother sick is what you're trying to do. I tried it one time, and then I got down to the bottom. No, If you're drinking stuff, you got to swirl. No. Anyway. Element Student Ministry, that's going on. You guys got movie night coming up, Monday, and then after school on Wednesday, and then youth community group. You guys are talking about the Holy Spirit. It's been really cool to see Allie's notes and all that stuff that's going on there, so really fun.
And our kiddos coming home and talking about it afterwards.
Yep, absolutely.
Annual budget meeting.
Annual budget meeting. How many of you want a fast budget meeting today? Yeah, me too. That's great. So we're having a fast budget meeting so fast that we're not even providing meal.
Yay.
Yeah. Right, we ain't doing that because we feed y'all. Y'all stick around forever.
Oh, my word. You're horrible today. We love you all.
How many of you love free lunch? Free lunch? I'll stick around, you feed me. Matter of fact, I got mad because somebody canceled an appointment on me that had a free lunch attached to it. And I didn't eat nothing all morning because I was holding out because I was going to make them pay for it. No, I'm just kidding. Sort of. But anyway, hey, it's going to be a short meeting. We're just going to bring out, we're not going to bring out tables. It's going to be a short meeting.
I'm going to scooch everybody up front.
We'll scooch everybody up front. If you're here and you haven't gone through basics, you're not an Element partner, but you're like, man, I would love to, can I just sit in that and listen? Absolutely. Absolutely. Sit in it and listen. Just know that when we vote, when we ratify it, your vote, you have to be an Element partner to vote, okay? So you're fine to hang out and listen and pipe in. That's great. That's going to happen right after our gathering. We're going to get everybody here. We're going to go through the budget. If you got any questions, then we'll do that.
And what we would have taken up in lunch, we've taken up in announcement time. Winter community groups. We are almost done. I'm just saying, a girl likes lunch. And I had to prep this morning. I was hungry. Anyway.
Carly. She said last night, hold on, we're not eating after that? No, we have to go home and eat. So winter community group, you're about to say something.
We are reaching the end of our winter community group, so be sure to keep up with your leaders on how many weeks you have left. Our Monday night group is, our last one is tomorrow night. And Valor, we do our own thing. They do their own thing.
We do our own thing. Guys, we're reading through, remember Judges 1 through 4, so be reading that. Judges 1 through 4, so we're talking about.
And you're coming to our house on the 5th.
Yeah, by the way, so
not
not this Tuesday, because Valor doesn't meet this Tuesday. The following Tuesday, I'll communicate to you guys. We're coming to my house. We're not going to meet at Main Street because our students are doing Chocolate Olympics, and so.
Wade goes to me, you have somewhere to go, right?
Sure. She said, yeah. So we're going to meet at my house in 2 weeks. Yeah, Chocolate Olympics.
All right, so Element Church PM. That is going on tonight online on our Facebook page. Element Community Out, Burke Biner. We have hand warmers. We have 1,000 hand warmers to hand out. So set that on your calendars. It's just a fun, simple morning. So we meet at 9:30, 10 o'clock?
Yeah, 9:30, 10 o'clock. And then we go and hand out hand warmers, 10 o'clock at Main Street.
Oh, there you go. Look at that detail. Okay, before we go on to the Hey cards. If you've never been here before, we would love for you to fill this out.
The new ones will have the other stuff on it.
Oh, sorry. We got new ones, and we were really excited about that, but we got to use up these old ones first, so be sure to fill these out. I'm sorry. You're not feeding
Just keep
me.
going. Just keep going. This is what happens when she don't get lunch.
Yeah. I'm lost.
Okay.
Oh, don't
There.
you dare.
Jeez.
If Hayward, all right, ladies.
Oh, man.
We're super excited about this. This Wednesday is the official opening of our Facebook event. We'll have our event go up. We'll have a countdown here in the next few days, just leading up to that. But we have a little secret. This little link back here is live right now, so you can sign up today, which you should be more excited. Sorry. But you grab a card. If you do not do online stuff, you can fill this out right here, so then we can add you to our list and put it in the generosity box. It is a one-day only event. We're really excited about that. We feel like we get to fit it all in a day and not leave people exhausted. So it's going to be a great day. Sign up. Husbands, be sure that your wives can come if you have little kids. Yeah, make that space for them to come on April 4th.
Awesome.
That's it.
Thanks, babe.
Sweetheart, you're welcome.
Hey, if you're viewing us online, we love you. Glad you're here. A lot of people view us online before they even step into the room. And so, sorry, Sharon. And then, so we're glad you're here. You know, as we say all the time, this is our deal, right? We're hoping that everybody will make some next steps in your life. For some of you, your next steps will be your first steps. In other words, you've never decided to follow Jesus ever. And so we're hoping today that for some of us in this room, man, you're gonna step over from death to life. You're gonna experience how to live this life fully alive. And for some of us, it's gonna be next steps. You find areas in your life you need to grow in. And how do you know that's good, right? That's good. You know, Jesus will take you just like you are, but he loves you too much to leave you that way. Isn't that great? Because we all need to grow. When I came to Christ, I'm glad that Jesus didn't leave me the way I was when I came to him. Because I wasn't, that was a hot mess, right? And I still am. But God is growing me and taking me into next steps. Felicity. She could come up here and preach, Brooke. It's all good. So we're excited about that. Hey, finish this sentence. If it ain't broke, don't. Right? How many of you have ever said that? Okay, a lot of you. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But here's a question. But what if it could be better? Right? What if it could be better? Now, some of us work in environments where you hate that phrase. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because all you see is how it could be better. You look at that and you go, yeah, it's not broke, but it could be better. I think a lot of times in our life, what happens is we live in this tension of, it ain't broke, don't fix it. In other words, my life is just fine the way it is. I'm with Jesus. I'm born again. I go to church. I read my Bible, and we're satisfied with that. But what if the all right could get all great? Are we ready to stop settling for what's all right and start pressing into what could be all great? I don't know about you, but there are areas in my life that don't need to be all right. Come on, right? The status quo, mediocrity, and comfort, they're the enemies of our soul. They are what the enemy uses to derail us from a life with God. Why? Because they're subtle. They're subtle. I love being comfortable. Don't you love being comfortable? There's a reason it's called comfort. Comfort food, right? It's there to make us feel comfortable and cozy. Is comfort food always healthy for you? Not mine. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. My hope for us today, man, I need a new, this thing here has been with us since the beginning, and it can only get unloaded and loaded. So many, yeah, make it, who said that? That man said, make it better. That's okay. Y'all got me looking at this thing now. All right, get back to this. Here's the thing. My hope for us today is that our life with God, that our walk with God, that we would dare to believe that God would cause us to leave what seems comfortable and all right and push us towards what could be all great. I believe that a lot of us may be born again, but maybe we're not walking with God as close as we need. Now, it's not about works. I'm not here to say, you need to do more, you need to do this, you need to do that. But here's the deal. I think in every relationship, we know that relationship, for it to grow, there's intimacy that has to be born, right? And intimacy brings a closeness to it, doesn't it? So if you're in a relationship, or if you've been in a relationship with somebody, it may have started out on a first date or a blind date. It might have started out with a meal and some separation, but over a while, if you want to invest in that relationship, how many know those things that are in the middle get smaller and smaller, don't they? And I think so many times in our life, we want to get closer to Jesus, but what we're unwilling to do is to move what's in the middle. Say, move the middle. Move the middle. We need to move what is in between us and what could be all great in our relationship with God. Now, where we left off last week is Elijah raised a kid from the dead. Now, I don't know about you, but it doesn't get much better than that. I've never done that. That's not on my resume. He raises a kid from the dead. He is experiencing God's provision over and over and over and over again. If you remember, there's a famine in the land, and Elijah, this prophet, he's experiencing God's provision through a brook and some ravens that are coming to feed him. He leaves, the brook dries up, the ravens stop, and God offers up another provision for him. He goes to a widow's house, and a widow takes care of him. And not only that, but the widow runs out of food, but God keeps replenishing the food. Miraculously, there's a famine in the land. Food is scarce, but this widow's house keeps getting more food. That's pretty cool. Not only that, but when the kid, her son, gets sick, he experiences God's provision when he takes this dead boy who's not passed out or unconscious, but he is dead. The Bible said that the breath left him. He takes this boy, does the only thing he knows how to do, comes up to his upper room, lays him down on his bed, stretches out on him 3 times, and cries out to the Lord to resurrect him. And wouldn't you know it, God resurrects him. And that's the first person ever in the Bible to be resurrected. Isn't that amazing? Elijah on his resume can put, I was the first one to pray the resurrection prayer. And so he's experiencing this, and after the son is resurrected from the dead, I would think that would take a lot out of a person, that he might just want to kick back and relax. I mean, that'd be stressful, wouldn't it? And right when you think Elijah's in the place in his life where he can sort of just breathe, nobody's going to die, God comes to him in the very first verse. And he says this is in chapter 18, in the very first verse, it says, after many days the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the third year, famine and drought for 3 years so far. And he says this, go show yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. This is good news. Good news. But isn't it amazing that right when everything seems to be leveling out in Elijah's life, God calls him to leave the safety and comfort and provision of the widow's home. Listen, nobody else in the neighborhood is experiencing the replenishing of flour and oil. This widow is, but the neighbor's not. And this is a good place to be if you're in the neighborhood. I often wonder if the word got out that, hey, we're low on food, but this widow, she got some magic dishes, and they just keep replenishing food. Maybe we should go over there. Or were they like, hey, let's don't say nothing to nobody. And so God calls him to leave the safety and security of his previous provision so that he can experience God's future help. But there's something that Elijah doesn't know. As he's walking away from the widow and towards Ahab, by the way, who hates him, there's something he doesn't know. Elijah's going to find out as he goes to find Ahab that God, not only is he sending rain, but he's also orchestrating provision for Elijah along the road. It comes in the form of another guy named Obadiah. Obadiah is interesting because Obadiah is also a man of God. The scripture would tell us in chapter 18 and verse 3 and I think in 4, he said that he was a man that feared God greatly. He's a prophet, by the way. There's a book of the Bible named after him. And so he's going to run into Obadiah. Obadiah is in an interesting place in his life because right now Obadiah is actually the manager over Ahab's home. Now back up, Ahab, right? Not serving God, doing evil in the sight of the Lord. Jezebel, his wife, you're going to find this out, she is massacring prophets of God. She's not a big fan of God. They're worshiping false gods. And here is a man who has feared God from his youth, serving as a manager of his home. How many know that'd be a tense place to live, wouldn't it? Not only that, but Obadiah has got a little side hustle. His side hustle is this. He has hidden 100 prophets of God. Sneaky, sneaky. Jezebel is killing prophets after prophets after prophets. And Obadiah has figured out a couple of places on the hillside where he can hide, stash 100 prophets. 2 places, both have 50. And wouldn't you know it, this cat is feeding them and bringing water to them, keeping them alive in secret. Isn't that amazing? I don't know about you, but man, if I had that job, that would scare the crap out of me. Coming into Ahab's home, seeing Jezebel, knowing she just came back from murdering prophets, and here you are, you got 100 of them hidden out in the valley. And so Obadiah is on a little mission himself. So I'm going to pick up in verse 5 and 6. So remember, Elijah's on his way to go see Ahab. He's going to meet Obadiah. This is what Obadiah and Ahab are doing in the middle of this. Are you ready? 5 and 6. And Ahab said to Obadiah, go through the land to all the springs of water and to all the valleys, and perhaps we may find grass and save some horses and mules alive and not lose some animals. They're losing livestock. So what, in verse 6, so what Ahab and Obadiah did is they split the land up. And Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went the other way by himself. And you may say, what does this have to do with God? Isn't it interesting that Obadiah has no idea that Elijah is coming to Ahab, but God sends him in the same direction that Elijah is coming from? Obadiah has no idea that his steps towards the land that he picked will be intercepted by the same steps of the prophet who's bringing rain. So verse 7 and 8 of chapter 18, this is the encounter. And as Obadiah was on the way, behold, Elijah met him. Now remember, Ahab's been looking for Elijah for 3 years. I don't know about you. I've lost my keys for a while. But man, if I lose something for 3 years, I'm looking for it. How many know I'm sort of, right? I want to find that. He's looking for him. So they meet, and Obadiah recognizes him and falls on his face and says, "Is it you, my Lord Elijah?" And in verse 8, he said, "It's me." He says, "Go tell your Lord, go tell Ahab, behold, Elijah is here." Now, this is a great thing. You would think Obadiah would be like, "Yes, I found him. Yes, I'm glad I ran into you. Oh, man, tell me, please, you're bringing rain. Another brother in the Lord, another prophet of God. Yes, I found him. That must be rain's coming." There are so many reasons that Obadiah should have been happy to see Elijah, but he's not. He's not super excited about this encounter at all. Again, Ahab has been looking for Elijah. Jezebel has been killing prophets of God. There's tension in the house every time Obadiah walks in from feeding prophets in the caves. Every nation that Ahab went and looked for the prophet Elijah, he would go to them and say, "Is he here?" And you'd say, "No, he's not here." And he goes, "Swear to me he's not here. Because if I find him, if I find out that you lied to me, you're dead." Ahab's a little excited. Obadiah is hesitant to go and get Ahab because if Elijah is taken away on his journey to get him, Obadiah dies. Look at this real quick. In verse 9 through 12, Obadiah said to him, "Have I sinned?" Like, you tell me to go get him. What did I do to you? What did I do? Like, we're supposed to be friends. Have I sinned that you would give your servant into the hand of Ahab to kill me? As the Lord your God lives, there is no nation nor kingdom where my Lord Ahab has not sent to seek for you. And when they would say, "He's not here," this is what I just said, he would take an oath of that kingdom or nation that they had not found you. And Obadiah says, "And now you tell me to go tell your Lord, behold, Elijah's here?" Like, are you serious? People say, "Well, what's the big deal in that?" He shows us in verse 12. Obadiah says, "And as soon as I've gone from you, the Spirit of the Lord will carry you where I know not where." He says, as soon as I turn my back, I know what's going to happen. God's going to take you somewhere else. And so when I come and tell Ahab, and he cannot find you, he will kill me. Although, listen, I, your servant, have feared the Lord from my youth. Obadiah's a little tense. But what's interesting about Obadiah is that even though, in some sense, his life is on the line, why is he so hesitant? I mean, like, I know you just said, like, I know you're thinking, well, you just said his life's on the line. Yeah, I get that. But listen, under the context of what we're talking about here, he's serving a king who does not love God. He found a prophet who hears God, spoke forth that no rain would happen. No rain has happened. And now he's found that same prophet that all the nation is looking for. Wouldn't he be a little excited about that? And maybe think, oh my goodness, God is about to move. But he doesn't think that at all. All he thinks about is his life. He goes through a resume as you go down from verse 12. I've served the Lord from my youth. By the way, Elijah, I don't know if you know this, but I've hit 100 prophets. Isn't that enough? Haven't I done enough? Like, I'm doing this thing. And here you are going to set me up to be killed? Really? Really? He starts going through his resume. And it almost seems like Obadiah wants a pass. Nevertheless, Elijah, we find out on verses down that Elijah assures Obadiah that he will be there. He's like, listen, go get him. Pinky swear, I will be here. And Obadiah goes and gets Ahab. I want to talk about just a couple of things today. what Obadiah is experiencing and what Elijah experienced when he left the widow's home, I believe that we can learn from. I believe we can learn from some things in their interactions between Obadiah and Elijah. Now, Obadiah is sort of a flash in the pan in the Bible, if you don't know this. His name only shows up 21 times in Scripture. 8 of those times are here. The majority of the rest of them, he's just a name among names and genealogies, right? It's like when you name off your family tree. That's where he's at. So this is his debut. We're sort of getting we're getting the best of Obadiah right now. This is his lead role. But the first thing I want to tell us is that the one thing we can learn, one of the things we can learn from this is that it takes great courage to step away from what is safe. Wouldn't you agree? That it takes great courage to step away from what is safe. I believe that all of us have been in situations where God has called us to step out of something that was safe or comfortable into something that may be unknown. Elijah left the provisions of the present. He had to if he wanted to experience the provisions of the future. Outwardly, this looks crazy to people, doesn't it? Outwardly, people look and they're baffled when you want to leave a secure country to go serve God in a very poor country. Like, why would you want to do that? Let somebody else do that. These are the things we hear. People are baffled when we leave steady jobs and steady lifestyles because we really truly believe that God is calling us to something else. See, so many times we put all of our faith in our paycheck and our salary, but yet we don't leave room for God to move and to experience His provision in a way that your paycheck can't let you experience. And so it baffles people when you leave steady jobs to do something that God has called you to do. Maybe it's not ministry. Maybe it's something else. Maybe God is setting you up to put you in a different job because somebody there needs to hear the gospel. And if we are truly bought with a price and our life is not our own, then should we not be as flexible as we can be to the King of Glory? I'll use my life as a prime example. Me and my wife, we got married the day after we graduated. We went on a 7-day honeymoon, and we started our first week in ministry the following Monday. We had a great job, great church. It was awesome. And as young 21, 22-year-old married couple that had only been married for weeks, it was crazy that God had called us to this place and provided. I'll never forget when we had a sit-down meeting with the pastor and he told us what their starting salary was. And I was like, okay, great. Can me and my wife just talk about this? We weren't even married. We were engaged at the time. Can we talk about this? And they went to another table, and I looked at Carly, and I said, hey, it's okay. I can work another job. And Carly goes, hold on, what? And I said, well, what they told us, we'll figure it out. And she goes, what did you hear? And I said, well, I heard this. And she goes, move the comma. And I went, what? No, they didn't say that. She goes, yeah, they said that. I'm like, well, praise the Lord. Looks like I ain't working no second job. I couldn't believe it. Like, are you serious? I was like, man, thank God she did banking, or I'd have fell right into that. But what's crazy, I had a great job, and then guess what happened? A year or two into it, we felt like God was calling us up here. And so I just thought, well, maybe God's calling me into ministry somewhere up here in the great northwest Wisconsin. Sure, this church is just thriving, just looking for a guy just like me. No. There wasn't anybody looking for a guy like me up here. But we knew we would walk this cul-de-sac every night, and we would pray, and we would always come to the same nagging thought, God, what are you saying? And finally one night we got up to go do our little walk, and we sat there, and we didn't even get out of the little apartment complex we were in, and I looked at Carly, and I said, are we just going to walk this same cul-de-sac and come up with the same answer again? And we stopped. We came back in, and we made a decision right there that we were leaving for Wisconsin. And I was terrified to tell my parents. What do you, hold on, let me get this straight. So you go to Bible school, you get a job fresh out of Bible school. It's a great job, full-time ministry. It's awesome sauce. And you're going to leave to go to Wisconsin. Now, all my family's in the South. And if you got mamas in the South, they don't like the babies going very far. I mean, for real. And my mom looked at me and she goes, "What?" And I said, yeah. Now, Carly, she'd already made peace with it. She'd call her, that night, she called her grandmama, her mama, and everything, and oh, Lord. And I remember telling my parents, and my dad goes, "So what are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, Carly's dad needs help. He does construction. So I guess I'm going to go do that." And I struggled with this tension. Did I miss it? Did I miss it? And somebody from up here a year or two in asked me, "What if you never step into the ministry again?" And I looked at them and I said, if I'm where God wants me to be, then it doesn't matter if I ever step into ministry again. And I made my peace with it. Because I'd rather be where God is calling me to than live in the comfort and the security of what feels all right. But it baffles people. It baffles people. It baffles people when you start implementing spiritual disciplines in your life. When people call you up to take you out to eat and you say, I can't do that. Well, why not? Could you go out and eat with me? Well, I just can't. Well, come on, man. What's wrong? Well, you don't want to go out? All right, dude. Listen, I'm fasting today. I'm fasting. You're what? I'm fasting today. What's fasting? I'm just setting myself aside and I'm focusing on God. I'm not eating today. And people get tore up. If people don't know Jesus, they're like, so let me get this straight. You ain't eating nothing today. No. Because you want to pray? Yes. Can't you pray and eat? Yes. But I'm choosing not to. Well, that's stupid. Sometimes. Click. Why can't you go out tonight? I can't stay out too late. Why? Because I got church in the morning. Well, you go to church every Sunday? Well, try. Well, what's the deal, man? You just can't stay out and just, dude, I need to be with people. Baffles people, don't it? They don't understand that. What you need to be with people for? I need to be encouraged. I need my life to change because I'm not satisfied with the all right. I'll say this before we get to the last thing, is that sometimes God calls us to a new level of trust with Him, and sometimes in order to move closer to God, we must step away from the comforts that give us safety. And that'll be a struggle for us in the West because we are, if anything, we are comfort people. We just are. The last thing I would tell you is this, is that Obadiah seemed too comfortable with how things were going. And I think we all get in that place, speaking of comfort, is we seem too comfortable with the way things are going that we are duped in believing that this is the best. We are duped into believing that it can't get any better. I want to just tell you real quick that there is no limit to how much you can experience God's presence, provision, and power in your life. There's not a place in your life or a time that you will experience here on earth where you will step back and go, well, I did it. I experienced the fullness of God. No, you can't. You know why? Because the very fullness of God taken into your mortal body would kill you. Because the prophet of old would see the presence of the Lord pass through and his face would shine just by looking at his backside. His face would glow, y'all. So much that they had put a veil over his face because they couldn't look at it, and all he caught was a glimpse of God. Can you imagine if your body experienced the fullness of the presence and power of God all at once? I'm here to tell you, I don't think we can take it. So we'll never get into a place where we'll just like step back and go, did this thing. Got this Jesus thing figured out, this discipleship thing figured out. No. There will always be room to grow. There'll always be room to find out who God is. There will always be room in your life and places in your soul that are hungry and craving more of his presence, his power, and his glory. But if we're not careful, we'll be like Obadiah. We'll find ourselves comfortable. Obadiah, his life ain't sucking too bad right now. There's a famine, but he lives in Ahab's house. Well, Ahab's definitely going to get food if he's got to go and steal it from other people. So Obadiah, he's getting fed. I mean, he obviously knows where food is if he's feeding 100 other guys. Like, come on. But Obadiah probably wasn't suffering as much as his colleagues were. Obadiah was in a place of respect and favor, and I'm telling you, in a time like this, you definitely want to be on the king's good side. I often wonder if Obadiah's biggest struggle was that if he went and got Ahab, things would never be the same again. Like 3 years, Obadiah sort of sunk into this rhythm, and he's okay. But if he goes and gets Ahab and brings him to Elijah, like, it hit the fan. And there may be a struggle. There may be some shaking of his security. So in our own lives, do we get so comfortable with things are that we don't want to shake the pot? Because it's okay. Are we like that in our relationships? Are we like that in our jobs? Do we compromise our faith because we don't want to shake things up? I don't want to say anything about this unethical thing going on at work because if I do, then I'm going to be that guy, and then next thing you know, I might lose my job, and then it's going to be bad. And then we ask you, well, do you believe God is calling? You feel like God is calling you to do that, and it's like, well, yeah, but I mean, like, I don't want to do that. Well, how do you know it's God? Well, I can't sleep. It's always on my mind, and when I pray, God brings it up. I really don't want to do that. In our relationship, sometimes we know what's going on underneath the surface, and we do our best to keep it there because we believe the lie that if I can't see it and it's there, then maybe it'll just disappear or solve itself or work out. I'm here to tell you, it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. But we are terrified of leaving what comfortability we may have in a situation that we won't stir it up in order to receive healing. We would much rather live in this place of deception and on eggshells every day, hoping and praying that this thing doesn't blow up. Have you ever been in that position? I have this closure issue with my wife. We can fight. We do. We can fight. And she is so much more. She's like, fight. She will speak her piece and be like, done. And she's good. But I have this issue that I can't just move on unless I can say certain words to my wife and ensure that we are good. And what happens if I don't do that right away in our relationship, it doesn't go away when I go to sleep. Because I tried it. I try it. And what happens is she goes to work, and lo and behold, I can't do crap all day. I'm trying to work out, and I'm still thinking about the thing. And I know she's fine, Julian. I know. She ain't thinking about nothing about last night. Nothing. But that's why I'm singing. Lord help that man. And sometimes I just think it'll go away. You ever just think just go away? It'll just go away. Sure enough, it don't. I text her up. First words, I know you don't want to hear this right now. I'm sorry. And I have to lay out all my feelings. I do, man. I got to get this thing done. I can't let it just sit there. I can't just think that it's just good now. I got to make sure it's good because I don't want the enemy to mess with that. I don't want to take the chances of something that's underneath to explode. I want to diffuse it before. I will finish up by saying this, is that Jesus has never called us to a life of comfortability, mediocrity, or safety. He never calls us to that, ever. This lie, come to Jesus and your whole life will be great. They killed Jesus and his disciples. But is it great? Yeah. Is it safe? No. Is it comfortable? Not all the time. Is it worth it? He calls us to himself. He calls us to trust him and no one else. He calls us to fight against the things of culture and the strife of culture and what culture says is fine, what the society says is fine. He calls us to take up our cross and follow him. Peter does the most ridiculous thing in Matthew 14, the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen someone do in my life. He thinks he sees Jesus on the stormy seas as he's in a boat. And for verification, instead of asking Jesus, what's your middle name? Where do you live? What's the first three, numbers of your social security? I mean, what? Do you know what he says? Hey, if it's you, tell me to come towards you. Really, Peter, you have no other means of verification. Peter's in the most safest place he could possibly be. I think I've been in rough weather in a boat. I've never thought in that moment, I want to be out of the boat into the water. The thought never crossed my mind. Now, I have thought I want to be out of the boat onto the shore, but never onto the water. And Peter does the most ridiculous thing in the world. He wants to verify who Jesus is, who he can barely see. His buddies are like, it looks like a ghost. And it's saying it's Jesus. And Peter's like, I got an idea. Hey, if it's you, tell me to come out on the water. And I'm sure all the rest of the disciples were like, what? And Peter's like, I got this. And Jesus said, it's I, come on out. And he's like, oh, crap. He does the most ridiculous thing. He leaves a place of safety voluntarily, mind you. It was his idea. Jesus didn't come up with this. He leaves the safety of what the boat provides him and steps out into the crazy and the reckless and the roughness and the scary. Why? Because Jesus is there. And when he does that, he defies not only, let's just face it, not only like good thinking, but he defies the laws of nature. He walks on water. What would cause someone to leave the safety of a boat and step out on a sea that's unpredictable? How bad do you want a relationship with God? We say this all the time. I just want to know God. I get it. But how bad do you want that? Because we do this in all of our lives. I just want to get in shape. Well, we know how bad we want to get in shape based off what we do. Right? How bad do we want to experience Jesus in our life? How bad do we want to encounter his presence? How bad do you want to get closer to him? How bad do you want a relationship with him? And with those questions, what are you willing to do? What safety and comfort are you willing to give up in order to gain that relationship that you only dream of? Some of us, you have prayers where you want to physically encounter Jesus. And people have told you, you can't do that. You can't do that. You want Jesus to be more present in your marriage or in your work environment or whatever. Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. And we never, ever dare to step out of the safety of our rhythms that we already have, our comforts that we're already enjoying, to put it all on the line to experience Jesus in a new way. Let me tell you something. I think some of you, God may be calling you to do things in your life that you, frankly, you're like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is crazy. And it scares you. Now, I'm not talking about being foolish. There's a big difference between faith and foolishness. But man, if we want to experience God's presence, power, and His glory in a new way in our life, it's going to require something of you. It just is. I don't know any way around it. I look at Scripture. I don't know anywhere around it. I just don't. I can't expect to experience more God in my life continuing to do the same things that I do all the time. I just can't. Because I tried it. And it just gets like bread. You leave it out of the package long enough, it gets stale. Morgan and I did this in 2020. I changed up some rhythms in my life. We changed up some rhythms at work. We usually have our admin meetings on Monday. I said, you know what? We need to switch some things up. This is getting stale. I don't like this. So we switched it up. It's just good. It brought a freshness to our ideas and things and it's just good. It's just good. Sometimes we just got to do that in our relationship with God. You know what? I'm just going to wake up and just pray more. I'm just going to pray like 5 extra minutes of 1%. I'm going to pray like 5 extra minutes. You know what? I'm going to try this fasting thing. And some of y'all are like, nope, that ain't it. You know what? I double dog dare. If you can do it, try this. Fast lunch. And on your lunch break, pray. Well, what do I pray for? Pray for people at your work. They're there. Pray for them. Just pray for them. Wouldn't that be cool? And what if God moved? What if He moved? How about this? How about join a community group? How about grow in some depth in your relationship with who God is in your life? Introduce Him into your marriage in a new, fresh way. I say this all the time. When's the last time you prayed over your wife? When's the last time you prayed over your husband? When's the last time you prayed over your kids? What if we gave God an opportunity to take what's all right and make it all great? Hey, stand with me real quick. Gary, come on up here, man. Play for us for a second. This is what I want to do. Nobody looking around. Don't put your jackets on. We're not done. You're almost out. This is what we're going to do. Here's the deal. I really believe that there are man, it would be hard for me to imagine that not every one of us in this room want to experience God more in our life. Right? I don't know what that more looks like for you. It probably looks different than it does for me. It's all good. It doesn't matter. 1% is 1%. Your 1% is going to look different from my 1%, but it's all good. Okay? It's all good. It's not going to hurt anything. But here's the question. When are you going to start that journey of whatever that is to experience more of God in your life?